Yes, so my name is Theresa Züger, but we were a very interdisciplinary group working on this paper, and some of our authors are also here. So if you have specific questions about the methodology, there are some experts in the room, but I will give you a short introduction about what we did and how we worked in this paper. And then we will explain the influencing factors that we were looking for. I will come to that in a second, and give you some conclusions. So this research was part of a bigger research project that is going on. It's called The Human in the Loop, Autonomy and Automation in Socio-Technical Systems. And it kind of starts from the idea that the human in the loop is this very often seen as a regulatory silver bullet concept, giving human control in automated or partly automated processes. And we wanted to understand what are the conditions of the systems to actually give humans meaningful control. And for this, in this project, we want to understand the influencing factors in these socio-technical decision-making systems to understand what are the influencing factors that humans have to cope with. And we came up with a quite complex methodology to figure out what these influencing factors might be. So we started in this first case scenario, we will have different ones in the next years, in the German credit lending system, where we have a partly automated system where a system helps to understand, gives a recommendation about personal credit lending in banks for normal consumers, so up to 1 million in Germany. And we started with an architectural approach. It's called the Arbiter method. The expert is sitting over there. And it is an approach where you understand which are the actors and the relations between different actors in a decision-making system. You understand what the flow of information is and how actually this ecosystem of decision-making works. And in that method, you iterate, because when you realize, okay, there is a gap, there's something in the decision-making we don't understand, you do interviews. That's what we did, and so we have several rounds of interviews to better understand the decision-making ecosystem in this particular case. And once we had the idea that we have a quite good understanding of how the decision-making works, we use a method called the PESTEL model that helps us to understand political, economical, social, technical, ecological, and legal factors that might influence particular actors in this system. And so overall, we did 13 expert interviews with 19 participants, and this little methodology map shows you that we started from literature review, going into a case selection phase, then starting with the modeling of the architectural model, and adding interviews that added up to 3 iterations in our particular first case, leading to the meta-analysis, where we then used the PESTEL model to understand what might potential influencing factors on these humans be. So that is the hard methodology part. I will give now the word to my colleague Philipp Mahlow, who will start with how we actually understood human in the loop, which was the core concept that we were working on.
Thank you very much, Theresa. We, at the beginning of our project, tried to find a definition of the high-low to work with, and depending on what kind of literature you take a look at, you have very differing definitions that specifically differ in the part of the life cycle of the ADM system they take a look at. And the common critique here was that if you narrow your focus down too much on one part of the life cycle, you lose track of other important human contributions. And that is why we propose a broader definition of a human in the loop, which reads as follows. Human in the loop is a concept to describe the roles and interactions of human actors in automated decision-making systems throughout their life cycle, which have a significant impact on the quality of decision-making. And with this definition in hand, we then built the aforementioned architectural model. Don't worry, this is far too complex to dive into now. We can do that later on if you're interested. I just wanted this to show up to kind of show you what central humans in the loop we identified. And those are the front desk staff and the risk analysts. And what they do, I want to explain to you with a more broken down version of the model. If you want to apply for a loan, you can do that online or in person. If you do it in person, front desk staff may assist you with the filling out of the application form and correctly inputting your data into the system. A creditworthiness checking system will then use bank internal data, your application information, and external data, excuse me, that is provided by credit referencing agencies to come to a conclusion on whether or not to approve of the loan. They output a so-called traffic light system where green means grant the loan, red means, of course, do not grant the loan, and the yellow light means the system is not confident enough, we need to perform another human check. And those human checks are provided for by the risk analysts. Then the decision is rendered, and we were interested in case for the German credit lending system. Currently, my arrow buttons aren't working. Perfect. In the German credit lending systems, we were, as Theresa explained to you, interested in what are the influencing factors on those humans in the loop. We identified 19 overall, and 2 specifically that were relevant to only one of those groups of humans in the loop. In regards to the front desk employees, there's the interpersonal contact. How well can they actually assist applicants to fill out the application form? For risk analysts, it's relevant how the degree of the granted decision latitude and whether they can check the overall application again or only specific parts that the system did not currently correctly understand. This will have an effect on how well they can use their expertise to make an informed decision in the end. The other 17 factors you can also see in this figurine. Again, too complex to dive into now. I just wanted to explain we identified 3 different levels. One external level that is relevant for all employees of the Credit Lending Institute. One sphere, we call it the personal sphere, that is relevant for how well can those humans in the loop perform their specific work. And a third level, the system level, how well can those humans in the loop interact with the creditworthiness check system they are confronted with. If you have questions in regards to those factors, we can take a look at them at the end of our talk in the questions section. For now, I wanted to stress what other contributions we made, a little conclusion in regards to roles for humans in the loop. Krotov et al. Wrote a very influential paper back in 2023 where they outlined 9 different roles that humans in the loop can take, can fulfill, can play in those processes. And one of those is the resilience role. Krotov defined it as humans taking over control over finalized decisions if the system is malfunctioning. As the yellow traffic light output in the credit lending case shows, however, if a system is fully functioning properly, it can still be advantageous for humans in the loop to take over the decision quality, or the decision power, excuse me. And that is why we argue for a broader understanding of said resilience role to also include humans taking the lead when systems are functioning well. And we had empirical data that stressed how important it is for humans in the loop to render the final decision in cases where the automated decision-making systems cannot yet fully translate the data that was input into it in a final and good decision. And those special cases that are not really thought about when designing the interface of the system are handled by those humans, which we termed or coined the special case handling role. Thank you very much for your attention. We first wanted to maybe advertise the paper a bit more because we believe that human-in-the-loop configurations are not necessarily only the sum of the advantages and disadvantages of their parts, of the humans and the machines, but their own socio-technological actors that we have to understand. And we believe that empirical data plays a very important part in understanding those, and we try to provide more of those empirical data in regards to the credit lending situations. If you have any questions, feel free to post them to us now or via our socials later on. And I think we pretty much bang on hit the 9-minute mark. Perfect.
Well done. Thank you so much.